Hello everyone, my name is Gibbous and welcome back to another episode of AirSimWorld. Now, it's been 2 days in real time since the last time I logged onto my account. I've had a little something to do yesterday, so I'm afraid I couldn't record. Anyway, as you can see, we've garnered quite a bit of money, and you can see in the next quarter of the year we've gotten quite a bit of gain in our airline value. So right now we're valued at about 148 million US dollars. Our least profitable route is this short one, which is to be expected. It's a really short route. Anyways, while the only thing I did off camera was order a brand new aircraft, this Illusion 96, which has a capacity for 300 people, which is really good if we're looking for high demand routes. So as you can see, it's a brand new aircraft, only 2 months old, and no information yet, so completely new. Anyways, so let's see if we can find another location to fly our aircraft to. So we'll need to fly to Ronald Reagan Washington Airport. Actually, let's use this airports menu because, let's see, Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport. And there we go. So, we should be able to look for new locations that we can fly to. And here we are, Wind of Washington. We've got a good 13% of the market share. And California Express seems to have the majority with almost 50%. So, we'll need to take a look at where we could fly to. I'm not sure that we have the range to fly from Washington to Los Angeles or Las Vegas, but let's check up the demand to Los Angeles. And it's actually within the range because the aircraft that I bought has about 3,000 nautical miles of range. Sadly, all the demand has been taken up by California Express. But we can fly to nearby Las Vegas instead. There we go. Okay, there's no demand to this one. Let's see if we can use the other airport instead. There we go, that's a bit more demand, but not really enough to warrant a flight, because long-range flights need to have a lot of demand. Let's see if we can use Oakland instead. 6,000, that's a good number. We'll keep that in mind later. Let's see if there's any other location that we can go to. Maybe Seattle. Nope, not a lot of demand. So we're looking for any major. Salt Lake might work. Salt Lake City International. Nope, about 2,000. So we tried Seattle, we tried Salt Lake, we tried Las Vegas and Los Angeles, but none of those actually had real demand. See what Portland has to offer. Also not much. We could try flying to Vancouver. Ooh, there is quite a bit of demand, but still not enough to warrant it compared to Oakland. Oakland. There we go. There's still plenty of demand for Oakland, so let's select this aircraft and select every single day. And we'll start off at 1 a.m. as usual. So as you can see, this is quite a long flight, and since this is a larger aircraft, we'll have a longer turnaround time as well. That means we've got turnaround time of 50 minutes, 5:17, means at 6:07 it'll be ready, so 06:08 is the return. Now I'll just click save and reload this web page because I'm not sure how much demand that single return trip gives. That gives about 2,000 demand supply. That means it should be good. We should be able to schedule one more return trip there. So let's select every day of the week again. And it's flying at 10:25. That means at 11:15 it will be ready. So 11:16 is when we send the next flight. And the return trip at 15:33, so 16:23, 16:24. And click save. Now sadly there isn't enough space in the aircraft scheduling to warrant pushing in another flight, because there's no flight that has this high demand. Each flight carries about 2,000 supply. Let's see if we can actually fly to a close place like Philadelphia. Philadelphia International Airport. Oh, that's quite a lot of demand actually. And if we're lucky, we can actually squeeze in the flight in this little blank spot here. Let's see if that will work. So we've got 2041, that means at 21:31, so 21:32. That's a short flight, we might be able to fit that in. Then we've got 21:44, so 22:34, so 22:35 is the return trip, and barely able to squeeze that last flight in. Reloading the page. There we go, we supplied about half the demand, which is good. Really short flight. Anyways, time to figure out the right price. Let's set this to 500 and click update, and wait for the web page to reload. Anyways, while I'm setting the prices, I actually not sure if I mentioned this before in the last episode, but I actually created a subreddit for this game, because I'm pretty sure that this game will gain quite traction once it is released. And if you guys are interested in this game, feel free to come and join me in this subreddit. So let's set this down to 400. Feel free to join me in the subreddit and in the Discord. I'm also there. I'm usually available to chat. Of course, I'm no professional at this game. The developer is also available to be talked to in the Discord, and he's also a moderator on the Reddit. Let's see. Seems like 400 is also slightly expensive. I think this might actually be a flight that's not profitable. I think this flight might not be profitable, because the fuel prices are just way too high, and people aren't willing to pay $300 for this short hop. Honestly, this flight I just need to break even and I'm happy. Oh, it seems like we do manage to make a tad bit of profit, but it's really not a lot. This will be our least earning flight. Let's see if we can still squeeze this up to 250, if people are still willing to pay $250. No, it seems like people aren't willing to pay $250, so I'll set this down to $220 and try again. Usually I wouldn't experiment with prices within the tens of dollars, because honestly it doesn't make that big of a difference. It isn't that much of a difference. But in this case, we're making so little money off this flight in the first place that it's honestly worth it. So as you can see, we made 100,000 more a week, which is good enough for me, honestly. I need to go down to my flights and adjust the price for the other flights. So you can see we're losing 3 million. So let's set this to a good maybe 4,000 and go from there. Now these videos will actually be very edit unheavy, so a very edit light. I'm not going to be correcting any speech mistakes that I do because I said that last time. I've got terrible memory and I'm not really good at recording live without a script, even though I hate writing scripts. But these episodes, they might be quite long actually, or they might be quite short. Either way, I don't really have the time to edit these videos. I might actually edit out this process of updating the flight because it does take quite a while for the server to actually recalculate the passenger numbers and the income. As you can see, it's taking quite a few reloads to get the system to update, and if I'm not talking, I might as well just cut it out during the actual editing. So maybe some basic cuts might happen, but really I don't think that I will be editing these videos very much. Anyways, the developer said for 0.2 he will be introducing banners and logos for your airline. That means eventually I might have to boot up my good old trusty version of paint.net and create a simple logo for Wind of Washington. Now that I think about it, a better name would be Wings of Washington instead of Wind of Washington, but what's done is done. You can't delete airlines, and sadly you can't rename them either. So 4,000 is making quite a bit of profit, 29 million. That's doing quite good. Anyways, I'll be cutting this part out because as you saw, the system is running quite slow. There's probably quite a lot the system has to update at this time. So I'll cut this out and I'll see you once this flight updates. Okay, no one's willing to take fourth leaf. Okay, so it seems like my $4,000 estimation was actually a reasonable price to start off with, which is quite good actually. That means I'm getting quite accurate at estimating prices, or I just got lucky. Either way, it's pretty good, because the less I have to adjust the price, the faster these processes will be, because updating is still quite slow, since, you know, the developer doesn't want to really invest a lot of money. 4,500, so let me set for 7 and see if people are willing to take that, but I'll be happy with a good 33 million. This will be our most profitable flight, which is obvious because the other two planes are short to medium range aircraft flying halfway across the US. And maybe I'm actually having a bit of a dilemma on what aircraft to buy, because these larger capacity aircraft have a longer turnaround time. As you can see, as you saw, that the smaller aircraft actually had a 20-minute turnaround time, while this one has a 50-minute. Of course, range differs per aircraft, but for me it's more about capacity, having high capacity with a low turnaround time. Now, if I remember correctly, the 737 has a really short turnaround time of maybe 20 to 30 minutes, and it should have quite a long range. The passenger numbers, though, will be less than 200. But if all the locations that we find are similar to the results that we just got today, it shouldn't be that bad, because this plane causes 2,000 supply and the demand is usually maybe 3 or 4,000, which we can easily make up with one additional flight using a 737. And it is 1993 after all, so yeah, there we go, August 16th, 1993. So the 737 is actually starting to gain traction. Anyway, I think this is a satisfactory number for income, and as you can see, this is our least earning flight, because honestly I'm just happy that I'm turning a profit. And of course the most profitable is 35 million, so, and it totally blows the flight to Kansas out of the water. Anyways, it's time to take a look for some more aircraft, because we've got 158 million. We need to look for some high capacity aircraft with short turnaround times. As you can see, the 737 is actually starting to gain quite a bit of traction with a lot of models coming out. See if we can, 188 for 2,000 nautical miles, which is almost enough to fly coast to coast, if I remember correctly. That means we need a slightly longer range if we want to fly to Canada or anywhere else, but it should do for any medium range flight across the US that we have planned. So we've got the 737-400 and the 737-500, which is a smaller version, but has a longer range and is cheaper. But really, price doesn't matter that much at all anymore, because money is not really that tight anymore. What we could also do is maybe get a 757, which is a middle of the market aircraft with a pretty good range and a pretty good capacity as well. Now the extended range variant I don't think we really need, so let's go with the standard, make an all economy class configuration. Okay, so we've got a 3-2 configuration. If I adjust this correctly, 17.4 should give us a 3-3 configuration, which is pretty good, since we want to squeeze as many passengers out as we can without, making it less comfortable. Anyways, so as you saw, this was the first aircraft that we've seen that has an actual choice for engine selection. So we can choose between the Rolls-Royce engines and the Pratt & Whitney engines. Of course, each of them have their different purchase price and their different ranges. But I think I'd rather go with the Pratt & Whitneys, even though they're more expensive. So let's order a single aircraft and hit purchase. Okay, so when you check on the pending deliveries, you can see that once again it's pending, and it should arrive within the next few days. The more aircraft you buy from this manufacturer, the longer you'll have to wait for all of them to get delivered. They deliver, I'm pretty sure, every 2 weeks maybe. Anyways, if it does get delivered, you should see that over here in the menu that it's delivered. The developer says he will add a feature to, mark all messages as read, because as I've heard, larger airlines have huge trouble because they order hundreds of aircraft at once, and then suddenly once they go back, and then all the aircraft suddenly have arrived and they've got over 100 messages to click through, and they don't really feel like doing it. Anyways, before we go, let's see and take a look at the financial report. As you can see, Q3 of 1993 has been added to the financial report. We don't have any in-flight entertainment and in-flight services costs because we don't offer that yet. It's probably better, because it is 1993, that we offer some in-flight entertainment and in-flight services. Airport fees is 0, which is good. Maintenance costs, this will be... right now it's not that bad, but this will definitely go up exponentially once the aircraft start to age, which means we might have to start selling aircraft eventually to try and keep our fleet as modern as possible to keep the maintenance cost down. So let's see, we've got no lease and debt payments, which is good because we're not leasing aircraft yet, and leasing aircraft, as far as I know, will be added in 0.2. Expenses 139 million, which, okay, is quite a lot. Most of it which will be fuel, I'm guessing. Yes, there we go, 35 million for fuel. And our gross income is through ticket revenue alone, which is good. So we've got a net income of minus 37 million, which is obvious because we just spent it on a new aircraft. But you can see we're doing quite well compared to the numbers over here. Ah, right. So, quarter 3 has a lower income number compared to quarter 2 because quarter 3 isn't completely over yet. This will still be updated. So, let's see at the world rankings where we rank. So, as you can see, of course, California Express is the top of the leaderboard with 12,800 weekly flights. Damn, that's quite the number. So let's load up their profile and see where they fly. And while it's loading, you can take a look that we've got Favoritism, Renaissance, Dragoon 2005 or 20,005 Airlines, American World, Enter Air, Nebraska Air, Scottish International, Transatlantic. This one is the test airline for the developer as far as I know. He flies in Europe. Fly Sweden, Air Caledonia, Lufthansa. So you can see some people just copy the name straight out. But you can see how many different names they've got. So here you go. This is the routing of California Express. As you can see, they've ordered 162 747s. I can imagine that it's going to be a Pan Am situation, maybe. But then again, fuel prices aren't really that big of an issue. So as you can see, California Express is flying mainly out of New York, sometimes a bit out of Washington and Los Angeles. What is this city? Cannot see. Somewhere in Mexico. Flying a bit to South America, Europe, and I think that's a single flight to South Korea. Yeah, that's a single flight to South Korea, trans-Pacific flight. Anyways, that means pretty much from Washington we need to steal away all the business from California Express before they actually make use of Washington. But flying New York to Washington and Los Angeles to Washington has already been taken, so all the major cities have pretty much gone away. So maybe next up, once we do get the financial stability, that we can make a transatlantic flight over to Europe, because it seems like Europe is still quite open. Maybe we can even make a secondary hub somewhere in Seattle, for example. That would be a good location for a secondary hub. Because for 0.2 we need to prepare some hubs for transit journeys. Because the developer said that people will, use transit journeys, which means you can artificially increase the demand for a secondary hub if you do set one up, as they will make, shorter hops. So, for example, a trip from, Heathrow to Los Angeles or something. There's high demand from Heathrow to Los Angeles, but we go via Washington, our hub. That means the demand for between Washington and Los Angeles will be low, but then once we connect it to Heathrow, the demand will suddenly skyrocket. That means they're flying via our hub, Washington, which is actually quite realistic, and I really enjoy that. I really like that. Anyways, we need to find our positioning wind of Washington. And we're pretty much ranked somewhere below here, I'm guessing. Let's see, Lufthansa, Skywind, Norwegian, Fly Sweden. No, these ones are too high. Let me use the find tool. Wind of Washington. There we go. We're ranked all the way down here at $148 million. You can see here the airlines in the billion-dollar ranges, and this is a triple-digit billion, and of course we've got a $1 trillion airline here. Is that a trillion? Yep, that's $6 trillion airline over here. And yeah, so you can see that there's quite a lot of competition. Some of these airlines are actually dead, which means we should be able to overtake them quite easily. But even though the airline is dead, they still fly the routes, meaning you still have to compete with an airline that flies routes but doesn't expand. So we could technically artificially knock them out of the market by, underpricing them, by going cheaper than them. And people will start to use our airline more. Of course, our income will take a hit, but we can knock them out of the market that way. Anyways, airlines do not go bankrupt as far as I know. As you can see, we've got Emu Airlines with the lowest airline value of -$2 billion worth. I guess they're just really deep in debt. And of course TWA, which I think is quite funny because they actually did go bankrupt in real life. Anyways, that was the second episode of AirSimWorld. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and the next time we'll be ordering more aircraft with some income that we've gotten overnight or over a few days, and plan out more routes, possibly even get our first transatlantic flight. Anyways, my name is Gibbous. I'm signing off to the next time. Have a nice day.
Life of Riley. Ah.